Hit it, hit it.
Hi, welcome to the Marley Bird YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to read crochet charts. We're going to title this Crochet Symbol Basics. Take a look down here and we can get started. I've went ahead and done a very high-tech written out instructions for how to read crochet symbols. Actually, I've given you sort of a key. What's really great about crochet symbols is they are universal. So these symbols right here are universally accepted symbols for these particular stitches. So whether you pick up a Japanese stitch dictionary, a Korean stitch dictionary, or an English stitch dictionary, or whatever it may be, you'll be able to read the instructions if you know what these symbols mean. So let's take a look at these symbols. They're actually very intuitive if you think about it. It's just a simple oval is the symbol for a chain stitch. And it actually, that's kind of what the chain stitch sort of resembles, right? It looks like kind of a circle. It's just this little stitch that you're going to work into. So every time you see an open circle, that represents a chain stitch. When you see a dot, and it could almost look invisible, that is a slip stitch in the chart. If we think of it logically, a slip stitch is meant to be somewhat invisible. So the fact that a crochet symbol for a slip stitch is just a simple dot, it makes sense to me. When you move along to a single crochet, it's a squatty T or an X or some sort of symbol resembling that. And that's the single crochet. Again, if we think of what a single crochet looks like, it's sort of a squatty little stitch. So this X or this T really does look like the single crochet. The half double crochet is that little brother or kind of, half brother to the double crochet. And so it is partially like the double crochet symbol, but it doesn't have that slash mark. So for the half double crochet, the symbol is an uppercase T. So anytime you see an uppercase T, that means you're going to be doing half double crochets. Double crochets are represented as an uppercase T with one slash mark. The treble crochet is represented as an uppercase T with two slash marks. Now here's a little trick with the slash marks. If you think of the slash mark as your initial yarn over your hook before you begin to work into the stitch, you can see how many yarn overs of your hook the stitch wants you to do before you insert it into the actual stitch of your fabric. Meaning, when we do a double crochet, you always yarn over your hook, insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over, draw through two, yarn over, draw through two. So that initial the very first yarn over before you put your hook into the stitch, that is represented by that little slash mark right there. When we do a treble crochet, we yarn over our hook twice. So you have your loop on your hook, you yarn over once, you yarn over twice, and then you proceed to finish your treble crochet. Those two yarn overs are represented by those two slash marks. So if, for example, you were to come across a stitch that looked like this, it looked like the uppercase T, but it had maybe 4 slash marks, even I don't know what the official name for that stitch would be, but I know that I'm going to yarn over my hook 4 times and then do my stitch. So that way, when I pull up my loop, I will have my initial loop on my hook plus 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the yarn over and loop I just pulled up. So that'll be 5. So I'll have 5 loops on my hook, and I'll proceed to yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, until I would continue to do that until I got back to where there was 1 loop on my hook. So can you see how handy it is to be able to say, oh, I might not know what stitch that is, but if I put 4 yarn overs on my hook, I'll be able to complete whatever stitch that may be. It's really helpful. Now, as you're reading crochet charts, you might come across a stitch where it's sort of like it's a shell. And so you'll see 3 double crochets, and I know those are double crochets because I have my crochet symbol key right there, but I also know I only have 1 yarn over before I proceed with my stitch. So I have 3 double crochets, and they're all pointing to 1 chain stitch. This is what makes chart reading so much better than reading the words, okay? Sometimes you might come across instructions and it'll say 3 double crochets, chain 1, 3 double crochets, chain 1. And so you say to yourself, well, wait, am I supposed to put those 3 double crochets in the next 3 stitches, or do they all go into the next stitch? Like, which one is it? Well, if I were to come across this particular pattern in my chart, I can say, oh, look, they want 3 double crochets all in that 1 stitch. So my guesswork is done. I don't have to think to myself, oh, I need to put a double in the first, the second, and the third, or is it all into 1? I can see that all 3 of those are going to go into 1. The other thing is I know that each of these are completed individually because each one has their very own top hat. If you think of the top hat, so it's the T, the uppercase T part, if you think of that as the finished stitch, so when you complete your stitch and you're left with that really nice looking V at the top of the stitch, if you think of the top hat here of the symbol as that finished V, so it's a finished stitch, you know that each of those stitches are individually made. But if we come down here and we came to this stitch and we were like, oh, okay, this looks like a T, but why does it have four posts, four legs coming down from it? Well, I can automatically assume this is a half double crochet because I don't see any loops, or I don't see any slash marks, right? So I'm going to assume it's a half double crochet, and I'm going to also assume that it's 1, 2, 3, 4 half double crochets. But because I only see 1 top hat, I know that I'm going to partially complete these 4 half double crochets, and then when I have all of those loops on my hook, I will yarn over and draw through every single last one, so I am left with only 1 stitch, 1 top hat, right? Up here, when we finished each one of these, we still had 3 individual stitches, right? Down here, I am going to partially complete 4 half doubles, but I'm going to be left with 1 stitch for the next row. These type of stitches are often called clusters. So if you come across a stitch pattern that'll say do a 5 double crochet cluster, it could be, if we were to draw that out, so let's draw that out. So we have a 5 double crochet cluster, okay? If I were saying, okay, I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I want to draw it for my own purposes, I know that a cluster means it's going to finish off with 1 top hat. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my top hat, and I've got 5 double crochets. So I'm going to just put 5 lines, and they're double crochets, so I'm going to do my slash marks, right? So I have 5 lines and 1 top hat. And I know they're all going to go into 1 stitch because we're just going to say that that's what the instructions said. So let's say the previous stitch was a single crochet, so I draw that. So my symbol for a 5 double crochet cluster is this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 partial double crochets with 1 top hat all worked into 1 stitch. Can you see that? Can you see how that would work out? So knowing that on my chart, this top hat represents what my finished stitch is going to be, and I only have 1 top hat, even though I have all of these legs of the stitch. You can think of those as the post of the stitch. Then I'm going to yarn over and draw through all of my loops so that I'm finished off with 1 leg. I hope that that helps out a little bit. I'm going to push this aside, and don't worry, you can actually download this whole instruction sheet that I took painstakingly computer time to draw out, and I'll put it up. You can get the link right there on the video. Okay, so I'm going to pull over the last couple pages of my garden party sweater pattern, and this pattern is available for purchase on the marleybird.com website. Now, if you look here at the garden party sweater, this is the symbol chart for the edging of this particular sweater. And over here I have the symbol key, so that way I can use this to point out the stitches and show you what's going on. The written instructions for the edging are very long. They actually go on for another 2 pages. I mean, it takes a lot of time to write out all of these instructions. Whereas if I have a chart, not only is it, space, I'm saving space in the pattern itself, but I'm not going to get lost in the written instructions of where I am in the middle of my row. If I'm looking at my instructions here for my edging, I could follow along my chart here. I have these numbers listed on the outsides of the charts, and those are my row counts. So if I'm on row 2 over here, that's actually row 2 right here, and so this whole row right there is row 2. Row 3 would be row 3, and it comes this way. Now you can tell which direction it's going because of these turning chains. See those chains right there that are, they're the ovals. They're ovals just like I told you they would be, but they're coming up and they're turning around. That's because in this particular example, these turning chains, they count as a half double crochet and a chain 1. So 2 chains count as a half double crochet and a chain 1. And we also know that because if we come back on row 3, this double or half double crochet in row 3 is getting work to the 2nd chain of that turning chain. So I mean, it's so easy to see that. This also answers the question of, are my turning chains actually a stitch in this pattern? I'm not sure. Well, considering that the next row is getting work directly into those turning chains, I can say without a doubt that they absolutely are part of this part of the stitch pattern. So I would count my turning chains as a stitch. Can you see how many questions get answered when you're able to look at a chart like this? So if I'm reading this chart, I always look for my turning chains, and I know that that's the side I'm going to begin reading on. And just as when you're crocheting, you work one side and you turn, and then you work the other side and you turn, just kind of like a typewriter in a way, you have to go back just so that you start at the beginning and go. So you read these charts like this when you're turning your work back and forth like a snake. So it's really easy to do that, and these numbers on the sides help you do that. The other thing to point out is it's very easy to see where the stitches are supposed to be made or where they're supposed to be placed when you're looking at a chart, because I can tell without even looking at any of these written instructions, first, that my turning chain counts as a stitch. I can tell that I'm going to put a half double crochet in the 1 to 3rd single crochet. I know that I'm going to chain 2 and I'm going to skip 2 single crochets and put a half double in the next single crochet. I can tell that I'm going to repeat that on until the very end, and I'll end with a half double into my single. I can tell that I'm going to chain 3 for the next row, and I can tell I'm going to put a half double on my half double, chain 2, half double on my half double, all the way down, and I can tell I'm going to finish with the half double into the 2nd chain of my turning chain. Can you see that? If I continue that on through here, I get up to row 5, and looky what we have here. I have double crochets, but there's only 1 top hat, right? That means it's only going to be 1 stitch. So that's the clue to me that I'm going to do a partial double crochet into that chain, a partial double crochet into that chain, and I'm going to finish it all off with my top hat. Now here's something I want to point out. I just said that I'm going to do these partial double crochets in these chains. You can make an executive decision and not actually work into the chain, but go into the space. You make that decision. It's going to affect your work. It's not that big of a deal. If you like it to where you work into the space instead of the chain like I do, then work into the space, because you absolutely can do that, okay? So right here I can tell 1, 2, 3, 4 turning chains to begin my row 5. That's going to count as a stitch. I have a partial, and I finish off with a top hat, so it looks like a decrease, but I'm not. I'm still finishing off with the same stitch, because the same stitch count, because look, it's a half double, half double, half double, and even though I'm doing 2 partial double crochets, I'm still finishing off with 1 top hat, so that 1 stitch is still represented as it was before. Can you see that? I mean, it just makes so much sense to me. So we go on, we have 2 chains, and we do the partial again. Again, it has 1 top hat, so we know that it's these are partially completed and they are finished off with 1 stitch. You carry on, you keep going. I want to get up here to row 7, and I want to show you how when you have double crochets or a stitch pattern that has a whole bunch of stitches all done in one space, because I would totally work all those into that space. But see how each one has its own individual top hat? So it is very clear to me that these stitches are individually completed, and they will be done on their own the whole way. I hope this helps you out with reading charts, and it helps you kind of see better visually what you're going to be doing. I know that the minute I was able to start reading charts and deciphering what was going on in the stitches, it made my crocheting so much easier because I didn't get lost in the words anymore. Charts can be your best friend, and don't be afraid to make your own charts to help you understand what a stitch pattern might be telling you to do, because that is a great way to begin introducing yourself into charts and really learning how they can work for you. Please come back and check out some of my other videos here on this channel. I teach you how to do many techniques, stitch patterns, and I go through different projects with you and have a lot of fun. So please join me back here. Hit subscribe so that you're up to date whenever there's a new video released, and I will talk to you later. Bye guys.